Good morning, everybody. I hope you are all ready for us today to have our peacetime session. So currently the schedule is a little bit in flux as some of our teaching monks are in Thailand, but we hope we can continue to attend our events on Sundays, and you can access our content on our Peace Point Meditation Facebook page. You can also check out our YouTube channel or Venerable Nicholas's YouTube channel, or go to the mindgem.com website and app, where you have tons of resources for meditation, including many workshops and wisdom talks, but also just meditation guidance videos that have been posted. So before we have Venerable Dr. Nicholas come and give his wisdom talk today and guide our meditation, we'd like to invite you to a stretching to do a bit of yoga. So without further ado, let's do some yoga.
The next few poses will be done in a standing position. Please move slowly and at your own pace. Keep the sturdy chair nearby for balance if needed. If you find that I'm talking faster than you are moving, please take your time and do fewer repetitions. Take a nice deep inhale and exhale. Place the feet about hips width apart and grounded on the floor. Lift the toes and spread them nice and wide, and feel the navel pull gently in towards the spine. Push the toes into the floor and lean forward just a little bit. Feel the muscles that keep you steady. Lean back just a little bit and feel the toes come up. Feel the muscles that keep you steady in this position. Now push all four corners of the feet into the floor. Notice the steadiness of mountain pose. Notice how the steadiness of mountain pose feels. On the next inhale, roll the shoulders towards the ears, back and down so the shoulders are slightly open. Let the palms rest open to the side. Inhale and let the arms rise with the palms facing up. Exhale, bend at the elbows and allow the hands to come down the center line. Sink into the knees just a little. Repeat this again. Inhale, lift the arms with the palms facing up. Allow the hands and face to be relaxed. Continue with this movement at your own pace. Breathe as you move and try to coordinate the breath with the movement. On the next breath, lift the arms back over the head. Fingertips point in, palms face up. Imagine that you have candles in the palms of your hands and you do not want to spill them. Turn the fingertips so they face behind you. The palms remain up. Turn the fingertips to the side and then to the front like an offering, then out to the side walls. Breathe as you move, up to the top with the fingers facing in again, towards one another, and then forwards like an offering, then out to the side walls. Breathe as you move, up to the top with the fingers facing in again. Let's do this rotation one more time. After the second rotation, allow the hands to cascade down by the side and let them rest. Pause for one slow inhale and exhale. One more breath. Inhale, exhale. This next exercise is excellent for strengthening the spine and gently stretching the muscles of the back, front, and sides. Attempt to make the movement easeful and gentle. We will do these movements with various arm positions. The first arm position is the easiest. Please be sure to stay with the one that feels best for your body. We will demonstrate them all. Take the right hand to the waist and then the left. Roll the shoulders open. And on the exhale, lean to the right. Inhale to the center. On the exhale, lean to the left. Inhale back to the center. Roll the shoulders up, back, and down. And on the next inhale, gently pull the navel towards the spine. Pull the shoulder blades softly together. Get a small lift in the chin and feel a sense of lengthening through the front of the body. On the next exhale, begin to fold gently forward. It does not have to be all the way. Bend the knees slightly. Inhale and rise back to a standing position. Open the left arm to the side. Keep the elbow bent. Leave the right hand on the waist. Inhale. Exhale, lean slightly to the right, and then return back to the center. Bring the left hand down to the waist. Lift the right arm. Inhale. Exhale and lengthen to the left. Return to the center. Roll the shoulders open. Gently pull the navel in towards the spine. Pull the shoulder blades softly together. Get a small lift in the chin. Exhale and fold forward halfway. Inhale back to standing. Open the left arm again. Inhale, and on the exhale, lean to the right. Inhale and return back to the center. Place the left hand on the waist. Lift the right arm. Inhale. On the exhale, lean to the left. Inhale and return back to the center. Roll the shoulders open. Lengthen through the front of the body. Slightly pull the shoulder blades together. Get a small lift in the chin. Exhale and fold forward. Knees slightly bent. Inhale and return to standing in mountain pose. Pause for a moment. Inhale and exhale. For this warrior sequence, attempt to keep the movements gentle and relaxed. If you notice that you are struggling, move the feet closer together. Lower the arms or make the movements smaller. This pose is great for strengthening the legs, respiration, and opening the shoulders. Step the left foot forward just a few feet. The back foot points in at a 45-degree angle. The front knee bends and the hips face front if possible. Inhale, open the arms and bend at the elbows. On the exhale, bring the hands and elbows towards each other. Inhale, open the arms and push the heart softly forwards. Relax the shoulders. Exhale, bring the arms together. Inhale, open the arms to where you feel comfortable. Exhale, relax the arms inwards. Inhale, open and expand. Exhale, contract. Inhale, exhale. Bring the hands back down by the side, return to mountain pose. One breath here. Inhale, exhale. Step the right foot forward. Take a moment, there's no rush. Ground the back foot into the floor. Bend the front knee. When you are ready, open the arms. Inhale. Exhale, bring the hands and elbows towards one another. Inhale, open the arms. This is a relaxed opening in the chest. Exhale, bring the hands and arms towards one another. Inhale, repeat again, creating spaciousness with a full inhale. Exhale, contract and relax the arms slightly. 2 more times at your own pace. Inhale, open. Exhale, close. Let the hands rest down by the side and return back to mountain pose. Pause here for a few breaths.
Welcome back to the 12th online episode.
Hello, I hope you are now ready to sit with Venerable Nicholas, and listen to his wisdom talk, as well as meditate for a bit. But for those of you who are new, I'd like to just remind you that our upcoming events will always be posted on our Peace Point Meditation Facebook page, and you can always check out our content on our Facebook page, our website, our YouTube channel, or on Venerable Nicholas's YouTube channel. However, if you would like, you can also access mindgem.com. That's mindgem.com. So don't forget, there's tons of content for you, and meditation will just benefit you. So maybe give it a try. For those of you coming for the first time, Venerable Dr. Nicholas Thanissaro is from the United Kingdom. He has been a monk for over 20 years and has over 30 years of meditation experience. He has pioneered courses in Europe since 1997, been featured and written many books, articles, and has had guest TV appearances. Venerable Dr. Nicholas is a United Kingdom Complementary Medical Associate Qualified Teacher of Meditation. So we have many other instructors. For our program, and you can read a little bit more about them on our website. Currently, many of our instructors are in Thailand, so the schedule is a little in flux, but we hope to provide you an updated one shortly. Now, without further ado, I present to you Venerable Dr. Nicholas. Thank you.
Welcome back to the 12th online episode of Peacetime, hosted on alternating Sunday mornings by Peace Point with myself, Phra Nicholas Thanissaro, live streaming from Dhamma International Meditation Center in Azusa, California, with a session that will be about an hour and a quarter long, and which will consist of a 25-minute talk and 20 minutes of meditation, finishing up with 20 minutes of conclusion and news updates. And the topic for the Dhamma talk today will be mindfulness and the functioning of the meditational mind. Again, this session, I would encourage you to send any questions you have by posting them on the Peace Point Meditation YouTube page or Peace Point Meditation Facebook page, or by sending them to me via Jintana Wachalapong, so that I can have a shot at answering them next time round. However, today we will start to look at the slightly deeper and more esoteric subject of the weaknesses in the mind, and how, through an understanding of these, it's possible to overcome mental weaknesses at their roots. This session, therefore, we are starting to look directly at the functioning of the mind, especially by dealing with our emotions. The model of the mind portrayed in this session and those that follow is not meant to denigrate Western psychology, but is supposed to be a pragmatic alternative user's guide to help meditators work with their own mind. The subject matter may differ in several respects from academic psychology, because the information I'm talking about has not been selected for its ability to be proven empirically, but for its emancipatory value for those wishing to make progress in their meditation. My sessions will deal with the nature of the mind as experienced in a practical way through meditation, not the mind alone, but also the nature of the defilements in the mind, which are equivalent to the physical illnesses of the body. We start this session with an examination of the mind and its working, and mindfulness as a quality that helps boost the mind's effectiveness. The mind we're talking about is like our sense of awareness or the focus of our attention rather than the brain. The meditational version of the mind is like the ghost in the machine, where the brain is the machine's hardware and the mind is the software. The location of the mind, identified through meditation, is the center of the body, just above the level of the navel. The mind is not a physical organ which can be studied through anatomy, but an ethereal one, more like a form of energy, which can be observed by the owner only when they have refined their powers of observation sufficiently. If the mind were disembodied and floated around on its own, it would look like a will-o'-the-wisp, sometimes seen at night around swamps and marshes, like the one shown in the picture. Within your body, the same mind appears as a clear, radiant sphere, which is normally about the size of the tip of your little finger or the iris of your eye. It has a specialized duty of thinking. Most people who never practice meditation have never actually seen their own mind. At best, they're only able to observe the working of the mind and the effect it has. Even when the mind creates trouble for us, it cannot be destroyed or neutralized, and since the mind is a form of energy, it can only be transformed. Since we cannot get rid of the mind, our only option when it makes trouble is to upgrade it. Upgrading the mind means improving on its functional characteristics, and to this end we can identify 5 of these: stability, self-radiance, ability to collect things, ability to be affected by content, and expandability. We will look at each in turn in terms of the untrained mind and the mind that has been trained through meditation. The first characteristic of the mind is stability or instability in the face of the ups and downs of life. If the mind has not been trained in meditation, it will tend to be unstable. You will find yourself changing your mind about any decision you've made. The mind has a tendency to wander, thus it's hard to keep the mind on a single thing. As a result, if we ever try to meditate for the first time, we'll find it's hard to pacify our mind. The untrained mind tends to think in an unsystematic way, thinking of this or that the whole of the time, right from the time you get up in the morning to the time you go to sleep at night. The untrained mind is like a boat cast adrift in the ocean without a rudder. Without direction, it will almost always fall under the sway of bias and unwholesomeness. By contrast, the mind that has been well trained in meditation will be stable, unwavering, and hard to distract. Such stability is usually indicated by its initial stages in the so-called neighborhood concentration, which in the technical language of meditation is known as Upajjhara Samadhi. If what you see is not yet stable, it will not yet be the first absorption, just an object of meditation in the mind. Instead of the mind thinking all the time, it will be spacious and light, free of worries, fears, or obsessions. There will be no feeling of awkwardness or discomfort. Many people who have just finished their exams say it's a huge weight off their mind. For the trained mind, it's like having a weight off your mind the whole of the time, because you will feel implicitly happy and peaceful. The mind, perfectly adjusted in this way, will feel saturated and refreshed by happiness, to the extent that no negative emotion can interfere. The second characteristic of the mind is its degree of self-radiance. The mind can generate its own brightness in just the same way that the sun, a star, or a candle generates its own brightness. If the mind has not been trained in meditation, it will lack radiance. For most people in the world, their mind is so dark and clouded that they cannot see things according to reality. It's like wearing tinted glasses. If you wear dark glasses, everything you see will be dark. If you wear rose-tinted glasses, everything you see will be pink. If you wear green-tinted glasses, everything you see will be green. Thai farmers apparently used a trick on horses to trick them into eating dried-up hay by making it seem as appetizing as fresh grass. What they did was to make special green-tinted glasses for the horses to con them into believing the hay was fresh grass. In the same way that horses wearing colored spectacles cannot see according to reality, those whose mind is clouded cannot understand the world the way it really is. The reason for lack of radiance in the mind is the three groups of defilements in the mind that we have heard about in previous sessions. By contrast, the mind that has been well trained in meditation will be radiant and pure, unclouded and with its own source of inner radiance, like the sun. The third characteristic of the mind is being able to collect and amass things. If you do good things, then you will collect positive things in the mind. If you do bad things, then you will collect negative things in the mind. The mind collects things so well that these things are erased not even by the process of death and the breakup of the physical body. If the mind has not been trained in meditation, it will pick up on emotions indiscriminately, even negative attitudes and moods such as fear and depression. The worst thing about the untrained mind is that it collects things we don't want. Imagine a depressed person who picks up only on things from their surroundings that confirm or worsen their depression. By contrast, the mind that has been well trained in meditation will select to pick up only positive things while sidestepping negative stimuli. The fourth characteristic of the mind is being able to be affected by the content it has collected up for itself. The reason why we have to take special care of the mind is that it is so easily influenced. The reason it is so easily affected is because it is like a dynamic energy, where there is very little fixed. If the mind has not been trained in meditation, it will be adversely affected by its content. The result of bad things collected will be to make the mind darker and more clouded, in the same way that clear water becomes clouded if you spill ink into it. In the same way, the usually radiant mind will be darkened while it gets filled with negative attitudes. The mind will lose its sense of joy and become prone to irritability. It will be unyielding and clumsy to work with. Such a mind will be reduced to erroneous and unrefined thinking. Furthermore, the untrained mind is so used to negative moods that as soon as you start to take the mind away from these, it will resist. If the untrained mind is deprived of the negative content it has collected up for itself, it will squirm like a fish out of water. By contrast, the mind that has been well trained in meditation will be in full control of how content affects it. When only positive content fills the mind, it will remain constantly in a positive state. The fifth and final characteristic of the mind is being able to expand and contract. This is something we already have experience of from practicing meditation on loving kindness. If the mind has not been trained in meditation, it will lack expandability or will expand its defilements. If the untrained mind can be expanded, its defilements are expanded at the same time. Thus, wherever a person with an untrained mind goes, they think they are the master of all that they see. They become obsessed with world domination. This is the enlargement of the impure mind. If such a person manages to reduce the size of their mind, again it will be an impure way. They will end up being like a miser whose mind is so selfish they cannot ever share anything with anyone else. For such a person, even to ask for a free meal is a waste of time. They will not even share a glass of water with you. They will not even let you stand in the shade of their house out of fear that you'll steal something from inside. By contrast, the mind that has been well trained in meditation will be expandable. In meditation, it will bring you to the point of attaining access concentration, which is known by the technical term appana-samadhi. This means that you will be able to contract and expand the object of meditation at will. This expandability allows the mind to adapt itself readily to any type of working requirement. When you expand the trained mind, you do so with goodwill. If you spread loving-kindness in this way, it will spread happiness throughout the world or throughout the universe. If you rest the attention at a standstill at the center of the body, the mind can be expanded until it is as large as the world or larger than that. If you enlarge the mind in a pure way, the more it enlarges, the more the wisdom. Similarly, if you reduce the size of the mind in a pure way, you can find out about microscopic things. You can even analyze the tip of a needle at will. Now that we know about the characteristics of the mind, let us look at the way it functions in relation to its structure. The human being consists of 5 psychophysical constituents or aggregates. Of course, we consist of both body and mind. The first psychophysical constituent is that of the physical body, which is made up of physical elements. The remaining 4 psychophysical constituents comprise the mind. The mind has 4 different functions, so it has 4 different departments to take care of these. The process of mind is a sequential process that involves 4 basic stages handled by 4 specialized compartments of the mind. Firstly, sensory reception, which you might call data monitoring. Then, sensory registration, otherwise known as data filtering. Then, central processing, which you might call evaluation. And finally, cognition, which carries through into implementation. So let's look at each of these in turn. The first level of processing is sensory reception. All of us have 6 senses rather than the conventional 5, by which we can gather perceptual data. They are like 6 entrances or doorways to the mind: our sight, hearing, smell, taste, touch, and the mind directly. When there is sensory information coming to the mind, if the eyes pick up the information and send it to the mind, it is called an image. If the ears pick up information and pass it to the mind, it's called sound. If the nose picks up information and passes it to the mind, we call it smell. Taste comes via the tongue, feeling via our skin, and mental objects via the mind. The second level of processing is sensory registration or sensory filtering. Much more information comes to our senses than we can ever use, and it's the duty of the sensory filters to sort out the meaningful signals from the noise. At this level, there is some limited form of recognition of the nature of the stimulus. Usually a separation into pleasant, unpleasant, neither pleasant nor unpleasant stimuli, without any recognition beyond this. The third part of the process is called central processing. It is the sort of thinking done on the basis of sensory input, which processes the data into something meaningful. It considers the registered sensory data to give it value, that is, to consider whether it's good or bad, appropriate or inappropriate. The fourth level of processing is cognition. Once the data has been subject to consideration, the mind is able to decide what it should make of the information. This is the point at which the data will give rise to knowledge. Even though our thoughts are invisible to others around us, nonetheless they are accompanied by a lot of mental activity. Thoughts will be accompanied by the corresponding images, as if the mind were a TV screen. If you think of killing someone, then pictures of you killing that person will arise in the mind. If you think of helping someone, then images of you helping that person will arise in the mind. If you think of building a house, then the pictures of the completed house must arise in the mind first. Of course, the processes I have described do not always work perfectly, because of the influence of defilements in the mind. Let's start by looking at the faults in the process of the mind attributable to our senses. In their untrained form, the sense doors of the mind have been compared unflatteringly to lowly animals. The eyes have been compared to a snake because they have a tendency always to look at secret things. The ears have been compared to a crocodile because just as a crocodile loves cool water, the ears are always tempted to hear flattery or flowery speech from others. The nose has been compared to a caged bird because it jumps about, never resting from its obsession to find the source of any pleasant aroma it detects. The tongue has been compared to a mad dog frothing at the mouth, because if it ever has a free moment, it fills its time by gossiping about the neighbors. In this connection, even Matthew 15 from the Bible warns that what comes out of the mouth is more important than what goes in. Meanwhile, the body has been compared to a lazy fox, which is always looking for a comfortable place to rest or take the weight off its feet. The mind has been compared to a monkey which never stays still, but must find something to think about the whole of the time. Even if you try to train your mind to think of a crystal ball or a shining sun the whole of the time, it will just build castles in the air and daydream about everything under the sun. The sense doors of the mind are not praised because, for the most part, they are just like slaves to the defilements in our mind. Meditators are encouraged to restrain the senses by non-attachment to the source of the sensations, in whole or in part. When we receive images via our eyes, sounds via our ears, smells via our noses, tastes via our taste buds, sensations via our skin or inner experience via our mind, we must not become attached to the source of those sensations in a positive or a negative way. If we see a fashion model, we must not react with the thought, how beautiful they are. If you see someone who is ugly, you must not react with the thought, how repulsive that person is. If you are caught unawares thinking such a thought, the thought will stir up defilements latent in the mind. Similarly, instead of faults with the processes of sensory registration or filtering, the problems may occur at the level of the mind's processing or cognition. The main problem which can occur with cognition in the untrained mind is the problem of faulty discretion. If discretion is faulty, then even given the correct information, conclusions attained by the mind on the basis of the data will be erroneous. The untrained mind sees positive things as negative and negative things as positive. Faulty discretion is the result of the mind which is unyielding, dull, and unable to think constructively about any subject. Such a mind is blind to reality. If you were to compare such a mind to a lens, you could compare it to a lens that is opaque or clouded. Whatever you look at through the lens of this type will appear distorted, dark, and formless. By contrast, a well-trained mind will be like a clear lens. Everything viewed through the lens will be crystal clear. You'll be able to see yourself as you really are. The real problem with malfunction of the mind is that even though we recognize it, we are unable to let go of it. It is a problem that has been compared to a child holding a burning stick, who is in so much pain that they cannot bring themselves to let go of it. So, what possibilities are left to the mind to overcome all the inbuilt faults at the various levels of processing? The key is a virtue called mindfulness, a subject we will come back to later in this session after our meditation. Finally, before coming to time for meditation, I should mention the relationship between body and mind. In our normal waking life, we are used to the physical body taking precedence over everything else in our lives. However, there are times in our life when our mind takes on a much more prominent role. The body can be compared to a fish, which is usually a graceful and powerful creature when compared to an ant. A fish will get to eat ants when the water in the river rises, but the roles can be reversed if the water dries up. The ants will soon feed on the fish stranded on the mud when the water dries up. In the same way, the mind seems insignificant when the body is healthy. Only when the body is asleep or dying or meditating does the mind start to express itself in its own right, and it is at these critical times when you will thank yourself for having trained yourself in meditation for many years in advance. Speaking of which, we come to time now for some meditation ourselves. So if you would like to find a comfortable sitting position for yourself now, as you listen to my instructions for meditation.
If you'd like to start by finding a comfortable position for yourself in meditation, with your right leg on your left leg, your right hand on your left hand, with the index finger of your right hand touching against the thumb of your left hand, with your hands palm upwards on your lap. And adjust the position of your body so that your breathing and your circulation are completely natural. And start by relaxing every muscle of your body. Relax every muscle of your body, starting with the muscles of your forehead. Relax your eyebrows, your eyelids. Close your eyes only very gently, in much the same way you would close your eyes to go to sleep. Relax the muscles of your face, your neck, both of your shoulders, both arms down to the tips of your fingers. Relax your chest, trunk and abdomen, both of your legs, down to the tips of your toes. So that all the way from the top of your head to the tips of your toes, there's no remaining part of your body with any stress or tension anymore. If you notice any remaining tension, then relax it completely. And you find that the body which is properly relaxed will have a feeling as if it seems to melt away into the atmosphere around you, so that you can turn your attention to relaxing the mind. The most efficient way to relax the mind is to forget about all concerns with your everyday life. Don't let your mind wander to thoughts of the past or thoughts of the future, but keep your mind firmly in the present moment. Keep in mind the task in hand of relaxing the mind, of training and cultivating the mind in meditation, for which you have set aside these precious few moments. And fill your mind with thoughts of happiness and joy. Make your mind spacious, radiant, light and refreshed. Spacious like the ocean, radiant like the morning sun, light as a feather, and refreshed like a flower bud in the early morning dew. Fill your mind with happiness and joy, as if those tiny particles of happiness and joy completely filled your mind, leaving no space within your mind for any other sort of thought. And when your mind feels completely relaxed, harmonized, unified, and your body is completely relaxed too, very gently, using no effort at all, allow your attention to settle and to center itself to a point in the middle of your stomach. Allow your attention, allow your mind to settle itself to a point in the center of your stomach. And maintain your mind there, at this point in the center of your stomach, as continuously as you can, for as long as you can, without letting your mind wander anywhere else. The way we keep the mind in the center of the body depends on our own personal character. Some people like to keep the mind in the center of the body by visualizing a bright object there. Other people prefer to keep the mind in the center of the body simply by observing whatever inner experience there is to be seen at the center of the body. If you find that for you the first method is more appropriate, then imagine a bright object, such as a shining sun, a full moon, a shining star, or even a crystal ball, as if that bright object, the object of your choice, any one of the four, is floating in the center of your stomach. And imagine that object as continuously as you can, for as long as you can, without letting the mind wander anywhere else. Imagine with a soft and gentle attention. A second possible way of maintaining the mind at the center of the body is simply by observing without imagining anything, observing whatever there is to be seen at the center of the body. If there's darkness to be observed, then observe the darkness. If there are shadows to be observed, then observe the shadows. If there are images to be observed, then observe the images. And if there is brightness to be observed, then observe the brightness. In brief, observe whatever there is to be seen, but observe continuously with a light and gentle attention, without entertaining any thoughts in your mind, without judging the things that you see, without any expectations, without becoming elated by the pleasing things that we see, without feeling disappointed by the displeasing things that we see. Simply observing and nothing more. So cultivate the refinement of the mind, cultivate the subtlety of the mind, using your bright object or using your observation skills as continuously as you can, for as long as you can, without letting the mind wander anywhere else. And eventually the mind will come gently to a standstill at the center of the body, allowing the mind to go deeper inside, deeper into purity, deeper into brightness, and deeper into the hidden wisdom within the mind.
Now, each their own meditation practice in silence for a few more moments until we come to the appropriate time. Mind is always at the center of our body, remaining at a standstill at the center of whatever inner experience we have attained for ourselves. For some people it will be like a clear, bright sphere of brightness at the center of the body. For other people it may be like a bright, clear Buddha image at the center of the body. For others still it may be like a feeling of warmth or well-being at the center of the body. Whatever sort of inner experience we have attained for ourselves, we place our attention very gently at the center of that experience, the very center of the inner experience within ourselves, touching gently with the same lightness of a feather floating down to touch upon the surface of some water, so lightly that the feather doesn't even break the surface of the water. In the same way we touch our attention at the center of our inner experience within ourselves. We touch our mind at the center with just the right amount of attention. What we will find is that the inner sphere of the mind will gradually expand outwards in size, expanding gradually outwards until it is the same size as the whole of our body, as if we were sitting inside a sphere of our own well-being or a sphere of our own light. We make the wish that may we ourselves be well and happy, may we be free from all suffering. And touching our mind again at the center of the body, the sphere of well-being or the sphere of light spreads outwards beyond our own body, spreading outwards in all directions, just like the moonlight shines outwards from the full moon in the night sky, or just as a block of ice sends the coolness outwards in all directions around itself into the atmosphere around it. In the same way we spread our loving kindness outwards in all directions around ourselves, spreading the sphere of loving kindness outwards to encapsulate the whole of the room in which we are sitting for meditation, making the wish that may all living beings here in this room be well and happy, be free from all suffering, We spread our loving kindness further outwards still, spreading outwards from the center of our body to encapsulate the whole of the building in which we are sitting for meditation. Again, with the wish that may all living beings here in this building be well and happy, be free from all suffering. We spread loving kindness further outwards beyond the building, outwards in all directions around us, into the neighborhood around us. Again, with the wish that may every living being here in the neighborhood be well and happy, be free from all suffering. We spread loving kindness further outwards to the whole of this city. You find it easier to imagine as a map which you see from above. Then imagine the city so, spreading loving kindness outwards to encapsulate the whole of the map of the city, in all directions all around. So there is no part of the city not touched by the coolness and radiance of your loving kindness. Again, making the wish that may every living being here in this city be well and happy, be free from all suffering. We spread loving kindness outwards, further beyond the city limits, to the whole of the country. Spreading our loving kindness outwards to the very borders of the country, in all directions all around. Spreading our loving kindness without exception to the very borders of the country, in all directions all around. Again, with the wish that may every living being here in this country be well and happy, be free from all suffering. And we spread our loving kindness outwards to all the neighboring countries too, all the neighboring countries all around. Spreading forth our loving kindness in all directions, to all living beings without exception. Again, with a wish that may every one of these living beings be well and happy, be free from all suffering. We spread loving kindness outwards again to the whole of the continent. We spread loving kindness outwards to the whole of the continent around us, every country of this continent. Our loving kindness spreads its coolness and radiance to every country on this continent. Again, with a wish that may every living being on this continent be well and happy, be free from all suffering. We spread our loving kindness further outward still to every continent of the world. So there's no corner of the world not touched by the radiance and coolness of our loving kindness. Spreading our loving kindness to every place on the surface of our planet. Again, with a wish that may every living being without exception, whether on the land, in the air, or in the sea, be well and happy, be free from suffering, live together in peace and harmony so that true peace may prevail on our world. We spread our loving kindness outwards in all directions all around, outwards into the universe, to the front and to the back, to the right and the left, above and below. Spreading our loving kindness outwards into the universe around us. The wish that wherever there may be living beings, may they too be touched by our coolness and radiance of our loving kindness. In such a way we spread our loving kindness without limits. Without limits and without exceptions, outwards into the universe, the galaxies and the cosmos around us. And having spread loving kindness in this way, we condense our awareness back down to the center of our body again, taking careful note of the brightness, the clarity, and the feeling of peace and joy at the center of our body. In particular, taking mental note, the feeling of well-being at the center of our body. Remembering this feeling as well as we can, because this feeling of well-being is very important for us. It represents the state of progress in meditation that we have made up till now. If we can remember this feeling as well as we can, the next time we come to meditate again, we can start again from this feeling. Starting again from this feeling, we can continue to make progress the next time we come to meditate again. So for the last few moments of this meditation, take a few moments to take mental note of the state of your progress in meditation. Remember the feeling as well as you can for a few more moments in silence. Sabba Buddhanupavena, Sabba Dhammanupavena, Sabba Sankhanupavena, Sattha Soti Bhavantu Te. So if you'd like to come to the end of your meditation for today, you can gradually open your eyes again. If you feel at all uncomfortable, then slowly try changing to a more comfortable position and gradually finish your practice. Mindfulness is something I'm sure you've already heard a lot about. It may be even one of the reasons that you got interested to start learning meditation in the first place, because it's like a buzzword for the benefits of meditation. Mindfulness also complements meditation, where meditation is something you do when you're sitting with your eyes closed on your meditation mat. Mindfulness is a way of training the mind that takes place outside of the meditation practice while you are doing other things. Mindfulness helps to bring the meditation you have attained during your sitting practice out into other aspects of your life. You will have heard trendy words like the mindfulness revolution, and today we will talk about some of the meanings of mindfulness as it was traditionally understood, because mindfulness of the trendy buzzwords has tended to overlook some of the most important features it was originally intended to convey. One of the downsides of what sociologists call the process of Western cultural appropriation. So mindfulness originally was supposed to be a sort of recollection, remembering or discernment of good and bad, right and wrong, motivating you to think, speak and act in a good way, without forgetting yourself and without being distracted by your senses, and always with wise reflection. This was the original definition of mindfulness. Some Western meditation teachers, however, characterize mindfulness as merely bare or undiscerning attention, otherwise known as going with the flow. In the Western version of mindfulness, even if someone is about to hack you to pieces with a large machete, you would still be thinking, go with the flow and be mindful. Mindfulness in its traditional meaning, by contrast, would probably help you realize that it is a better idea to run for your life. Mindfulness should not just be a passive quality. If you understand the full meaning of mindfulness, you'll also realize it requires some effort to cultivate. It is not just something that babies and children are born with, because children can also just sit there and be passive and not do anything. It doesn't take a great deal of training. By contrast, although the traditional meaning of mindfulness may mean observing without judging things, it also means understanding their true value on a deeper level. Within Buddhism, mindfulness is something quite central to many teachings. What's known in Buddhism as non-recklessness is based very firmly on this idea of being mindful. Recklessness to you might mean something like running across a highway without looking right and left first. But recklessness in Buddhism can mean much more than that. It can mean anything that jeopardizes your spiritual cultivation, and mindfulness would help prevent such jeopardy. Nonetheless, mindfulness is something that is currently in vogue with a lot of scientific research. This wasn't always the case. If you look back to the 1990s, you can see the number of papers published on mindfulness was only a handful per year. But these days the number has increased exponentially, and they currently have several peer-reviewed journals devoted entirely to research on mindfulness. So evidence-based research on mindfulness is part of why meditation has become more mainstream. But generally speaking, the research has not been on mindfulness in the traditional sense of the word. The Freiburg Mindfulness Inventory, for example, is limited to the following factors: being open to the experience of the present moment, being aware of your body while doing other activities, bringing the wandering mind back to the experience of the here and now, appreciating yourself, paying attention to what's behind your actions, not judging your mistakes, feeling connected to the here and now, accepting unpleasant experiences, being friendly to yourself when things go wrong, watching your feelings without getting lost in them, pausing rather than reacting to difficult situations, experiencing moments of inner peace in spite of hectic surroundings, avoiding impatience with yourself and others, and being able to smile when you notice how you sometimes make life difficult. By contrast, a traditional conception of mindfulness is a means of uprooting greed, hatred, and delusion from the mind, and it has 4 properties. Firstly, mindfulness prevents the mind from wandering. So, of course, the mind likes to wander, the phenomenon of so-called monkey mind. But if, through meditation, we bring the mind back each time it wanders, little by little, even monkeys can be trained. In Thailand, on Koh Samui, and in Surat Thani, they have training schools for monkeys with a 3-month course where monkeys can be trained to collect coconuts. So even monkeys can be trained. So your monkey mind should be no great challenge. If your mind wanders, you just use your mindfulness to bring it back to your center each time. Secondly, mindfulness prevents moods and feelings from hijacking the quality of your mind. Let's say you feel angry. Well, everyone feels angry from time to time. Even monks feel angry. But with mindfulness, you don't let the anger take over. You have to use mindfulness to remind yourself that you are not your anger. And if you have got a lot on your mind, thoughts for example, mindfulness will prevent those thoughts from proliferating without end. There may be some things that you find upsetting to think about, but it is also your choice to stop thinking about the things that upset you. So, if you're mindful, then you can actually catch unwanted thoughts before they get under your skin. Finally, mindfulness has the property of constantly reminding yourself not to forget yourself. To put this in a way modern listeners might understand more clearly, it is an awareness of the present moment. For example, you may be washing dishes by hand, but your mind may be on something completely different, like, what am I going to do when I finish washing the dishes, because this task is boring and meaningless. So, without mindfulness, you generally don't actually enjoy washing the dishes because your mind is never actually focused on what you're doing. As a result of that, you may drop things, or you may not get the dishes squeaky clean. Instead, you should focus on what you're doing until you've finished it, before turning your focus to the next task. You will be much more present in the moment, and out of that, you will get a quality of reflection and understanding even in mundane tasks, which will make those tasks more meaningful. So this is what we mean by self-awareness, being present in the here and now, because things don't change in the future and you can't redo your past. The only things you can change are in your here and now, the task you actually have your hands on. So these are the 4 properties of mindfulness. To move on to the benefits of mindfulness, and I will go through these quite quickly and in more colloquial language. Firstly, by being mindful, you can set up a sort of barrier between how you feel physically and how you feel mentally. Okay, your body may have some discomfort, but with mindfulness, you're not going to let the discomfort seep through into your mind in a way that it's going to ruin your day. As you can imagine, this may take some practice. Secondly, mindfulness helps us not to get stuck in selfish or blinkered perspectives, but instead to see the bigger picture more objectively. I guess in the present day, you would say mindfulness helps you to become more of a woke person. Thirdly, mindfulness provides you with the penetrative insight to see through to the roots of a problem, not just seeing the superficial symptoms, so that you can discern the way to solve a problem for good. It's like, do you keep on mopping up the water, or do you find where the pipe is leaking? Finally, mindfulness adds a dimension of self-purification to whatever you do, say or think, to transform that action into something that will purify you to become a better person. So, mindfulness brings at least 4 benefits, because it is a sense of awareness or a sense of conscience which you take with you into every activity. So having looked at the properties and benefits of mindfulness, we now turn to the functions of mindfulness. Mindfulness allows you to be suspicious of things deserving suspicion, and to be careful to protect yourself from dangers, even though those dangers may seem superficially small or insignificant. If you see a campfire left smoldering in a national park, a mindful person would make sure it's extinguished, because even a small and seemingly insignificant spark can cause a whole raging wildfire that can burn for weeks, razing whole neighborhoods to ashes. In every task, there is a line beyond which risks start to occur, and if you are mindful, even though it may be quite a mundane task, you will be able to see where that line needs to be drawn. For example, you may like your children to be happy, but you don't let them take pleasure in things that may be dangerous to them. So you have to draw a line somewhere, but discerning exactly where the line lies, that is where mindfulness comes in. Some people start out doing something and feeling happy with it, but if they consider, if I'm going to have to do this every day of my life, maybe I'm not going to be so happy with it. So with mindfulness, you would start out as you mean to go on, with a long-term view that I'm going to pace myself because I'm in this for the long run. Furthermore, mindfulness gives you a timely reminder, almost like an alarm clock. Some people might like to lie about in bed all day because it is also quite calming. However, mindfulness is not just a passive quality. Like a catalyst, mindfulness should stimulate us to hurry up instead of allowing us to drag our feet in situations that require haste. Like those who are already 30 years old and they are still playing around in life as if they were teenagers. If you have responsibilities, then mindfulness will help you to be aware of that too. For example, if you are your stereotypic bachelor, you can afford to please yourself. But the moment you start a family, then you have to start thinking about some other people too. You can't just be self-indulgent anymore. So mindfulness would help you to realize your responsibilities so that you don't carry on like before. Finally, mindfulness engenders thoroughness. For example, you can see the differences in mindfulness of office workers at the end of a day. Supposing the office finishes work at 5 p.m. If you want to know about the level of mindfulness of the people at your work, take a walk around the office at 4:30. Take a look and see who is in the middle of an unfinished job and take a mental note. Take a second walk around the office at 4:45 and you'll see what people's habits are really like. Those without mindfulness will turn in unfinished or shoddy work. Some will shove the work unfinished in their office drawer. During the working day, everyone looks well organized. It's only when it is nearing closing time that you will see the differences in mindfulness between people. Finally, let's look at some metaphors for mindfulness. The people of old compared mindfulness to the main supporting pillar, because no other virtue can be cultivated without awareness. Without mindfulness, every other sort of good thing which you do in your life will collapse. For example, you might want to show compassion for all the living creatures around your home, but if you're not mindful, then you might end up stepping on some of them. Or if you're not mindful, then you may end up saying things that you don't mean. So, mindfulness is like a supporting pillar upon which other things like your truthfulness or your sense of compassion depend. You need to have mindfulness to turn every situation into something positive. Sometimes mindfulness is being compared to a doorkeeper, or maybe a security guard would be a more contemporary word for this. Security guards have a very important task because they size people up at the entrance to some reputable establishment, and if they feel that the clientele is not up to the high standards of the establishment, then they don't let them in. But if the client looks like they are not going to cause any trouble, then they let them in. Mindfulness can perform the same function when it is considering the sort of sensory stimuli to let into your mind. So it has an important role in sensory filtering. Some things, once they get past the filters of your mind, can cause havoc inside. Think of what happens with a plastic cup if you pour in boiling water. It will get distorted and melted in a way that can never be repaired. In the same way, this is why we protect children from certain experiences, because they cannot unsee those traumatic things, and it may affect them adversely for the rest of their lives. Some things may not be traumatic immediately, but they can set off a chain reaction that leads to much worse things. So mindfulness would filter out an experience before it gets to the point where it's going to hijack the quality of your mind. Sometimes mindfulness has been compared to a treasurer, looking at the incomings and outgoings of the mind in terms of the goodness which you are managing to collect for yourself, but also perhaps managing to keep enough time for yourself to recharge your batteries when you're feeling worn out, but also having time to help people as well. This is why they say that mindfulness is like a treasurer who must be fussy about precious resources. Finally, mindfulness has sometimes been compared to a ship's rudder, which keeps you on target for your long-term destination, even though it may be a long journey ahead of you. So mindfulness can keep you on track and doesn't let you lose sight of your goals in life. Without a rudder, a ship will go in circles. It uses up all its fuel but gets nowhere. Similarly, mindfulness stops us from getting waylaid before we reach our long-term goals. So in conclusion, mindfulness is pretty important. It's not just like go with the flow or chill out, but actually mindfulness includes a lot of what we would call a sense of conscience and integrity. It includes a sense of care and also the wisdom to see deeply into everything we are dealing with, even the mundane things. The result of mindfulness would be to give a sense of quality in life. When we cultivate meditation, we might be quite proud of ourselves when we get a warm, fuzzy feeling inside. But if we have a sense of mindfulness throughout the day as well, in between the meditations, then it will keep that good feeling going into other activities besides the meditation. It will mean that many of the things that were causing you frustration in the first place, that were perhaps the reason you took up meditation, will no longer impact you, because you took care of them by mindfulness before they got extreme enough to disturb your meditation. So mindfulness is something that ideally goes hand in hand with meditation in all aspects of your life. For today, let me finish up with a quick mention about temple support and a news update about the availability of meditation teaching in English. For those of you who like to visit the temple in Azusa to bring offerings, please be informed that we are still using the offering site in the parking lot next to the main temple building between 10 and 11 a.m. each day. If you have trouble with the passcode on the gate or wish to visit at a different time, please call Jenny on 562-716-2961. There will be at least one monk on standby in PPE to receive your offering and give you a short blessing. English-speaking monks will be on duty on Wednesdays and Saturdays. A short ceremony for 5 precepts, meditation and a blessing are given on the weekends starting at 10:45 a.m. For those unable to visit in person, all the other ways of accepting money offerings to DIMC are still available, whether it be mailing checks, bank transfer, Zelle or Venmo. Needless to say, the whole of the temple would like to rejoice in the merits of all continuing to take the opportunity to support the temple in this way. Meditation continues to be valuable in tackling lockdown fatigue. And in this respect, despite the relegation to the yellow tier here at the temple in California, there are still no face-to-face teaching sessions for the interim. You can, however, continue to access Dhamma teachings in English through several convenient channels. For aficionados of Zoom meetings, you can access the Inner Peace channel content by joining the Zoom channel ID 970-1192-2337, and the meeting passcode is 072. And as you will see from the program schedule on this slide, content is available for most of the day now, 7 days a week, and brings together all the usual programming from our temple with the English and Spanish content from various branches across the US. The times shown on the slide are for the West Coast. For local content to Azusa, you can continue to follow teachings on the YouTube channel called Peace Point Meditation or the Facebook page of Peace Point Meditation. For those of you who are particularly interested in my talks, you can subscribe to the YouTube channel which I've set up in my own name. According to the current Peace Point schedule, every Sunday morning you've got me with live material and archived material on alternating Sundays. Venerable Sopon appears every Thursday evening, and please note the session is now shorter and takes place between 8 and 9 p.m. The Tuesday and Wednesday peace breaks from Peace Point are postponed for the interim owing to the teaching monks being away in Thailand. There is, however, still a silent meditation broadcast each Friday between 8 and 9 p.m., and this also takes place now on Monday evenings at the same time. Families listening in may be interested in a special show for children in English known as Shining Stars that goes out between 6 and 6:30 p.m. every Monday evening with bedtime stories and meditation short enough to keep the attention of younger viewers. Outside of the live streams and on-demand programming, you can also download the MindGem app for free, allowing you to listen to meditation and Dhamma talks in English on your cell phone, even when you are offline. It also now has push notifications to keep you up to date with the upcoming activities on the Inner Peace channel. In the meantime, try to stay healthy, avoid recklessness or complacency in the face of the virus, maintain a positive mood, speak only positive words, forgive others, extend good wishes to others, and meditate daily. Try to observe the weaknesses in the working of your mind and develop your mindfulness. So this is me, Phra Nicholas, signing off for this session. So long, folks, and stay safe.